Hello and welcome back to the Lakers Takes podcast. It is now 2022 and I am so happy to be here with all of you making this podcast once again. Let's hope this is a great year for Lakers basketball and a great year for each of us. All right, let's get into it. The Lakers are now 19-19 and back at 500, which I prefer to look at as games half won, not games half lost. So that's how I like to look at it. We're going to break down the games that just happened this past week. We're also going to talk about roster decisions the Lakers will be having to make this week, and we'll preview the upcoming games. First game of the week was against the Houston Rockets, and the Lakers do what the Lakers do against the Rockets, which is whoop on them, which is awesome. The Lakers won 132-123. This was a much needed win. The Lakers before this game had 5-game losing streak, tied for the longest losing streak in the LeBron James era. So they really needed a victory to take them, on the win column and get them out of that funk. 5-game losing streak is rough in the NBA. Like I said, only tied for the longest one in the LeBron James era, so you don't want to start going into that kind of uncharted territory, losing so many games. And this broke the streak and a much needed win, and LeBron had a monster game. He had a huge triple-double, 32 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds. He was all over the court. He was active. He was engaged. He was the most dominant player, not only on the court, but this was like the first game where you really started to hear some rumblings of, hey, this guy needs to be in this MVP conversation, at least in the top 10, maybe even top 5. You started hearing some of those rumblings after this game because it was such a masterful performance, for him to have as he's nearing, getting to his 37th birthday, which happened this week. So this was a really good win, really great win, nice convincing game, and LeBron really shined. But as is classically part of the storyline of the Lakers 2021-2022 season, after that came a disappointing game. The Lakers lost to the Grizzlies 104-99. It was, again, a disappointing loss. They were in control most of the game, and they really lost because Ja Morant just took over, especially in that third quarter. He started hitting some shots. He hit like a shot right before the buzzer, started dancing. You could tell he was feeling himself. He started getting into a groove, and that groove just continued to increase, and he continued to improve as the fourth quarter went along, and they took the lead and kind of ran with it. With 6 minutes and 50 seconds left, they were up 93-92, and after that, they never looked back. They took control of the game. The Lakers got really close a couple times, but they never were able to get the lead again or win the game, of course. Really bad the last 30 seconds or so as well for the Lakers in this game. They had back-to-back possessions where they just didn't get a good look, a good shot. LeBron missed a shot. They tried to inbound the ball, almost got a 5-second violation 2 times. That's really rough to do. And then when you saw especially the final play they had, it was just so sloppy. They struggled to get the ball inbounded. They finally did. LeBron passes to Malik Monk, who kind of fumbled it, lost control. He had a wide open Russ. He did not pass the ball to Russ, passed it back to LeBron. LeBron seemed surprised, didn't know if he wanted to try to take a step back 3, drive to the lane. He started driving to the lane. He fumbled the ball. It was just terrible, and the Lakers lose. So it was a bad loss, and they just didn't look good in the closing seconds, which is not what you want to see. But unfortunately, that's kind of how that went down. And props to Ja Morant with his 41-point game, getting that victory. After the game on New Year's Eve, the morning of New Year's Eve, the Lakers got some good news. Frank Vogel was cleared and was out of COVID protocols, no longer in health and safety protocols, didn't have COVID anymore, and he was coaching the Lakers. So these last few games, it's been Fizdale taking over and taking over the head coaching responsibilities and running the show. Now Frank Vogel's back, and again, this is such an important thing for him to return to the bench and be the Lakers head coach, because not only is it great news for him, but it's great news for his health, for his family, for the team, and just having your coach back. It's good to see anyone come back from being in health and safety protocols and be okay. Luckily, we haven't had any deaths in the NBA due to this. We've had deaths to families and friends of NBA players for sure, but no NBA players actually died from this. Unfortunately, that's something that, as this continues to go on, it is a worry for me. So I'm glad Vogel's okay. He's good, and in fact, good enough to come back. He was cleared in the morning, so he was able to coach the Lakers in the final game of the year on New Year's Eve. Lakers, Blazers, and the Lakers had the best win of the season, 139-106. It was never in question. They blew the Blazers out. Dominant performance the entire time. It was the most complete game the Lakers had. LeBron was just unbelievable. 43 points, 14 rebounds, and 4 assists. He didn't even play most of the fourth quarter. He was out, I believe, midway through the fourth. They took him out with about 6-7 minutes left in the game, and that was all she wrote. He was done for the night. He could have definitely hit that 50 piece, maybe even more. He was absolutely on fire. He was on one. 16 for 26 from the field, 43 points in 29 minutes. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. He had himself a game, and the whole team did, because they took control from a beginning to the end. It was never, like I said, in question. It was a smooth, comfortable, easy win for the Lakers to end the year, and that was, again, much needed with, breaking the streak with the early game in the week, and then losing another one and winning another one. Again, just trying to get to 500 and get somewhere positive. They ended the year 18-19, and thankfully ended the year, because it's definitely been a rough year for the Lakers. I'm sure they are looking forward to a fresh start in 2021, even though it's technically not fresh since we're right in the middle of the season, but you understand the sentiment. It's a new year. Take out those old memories and let's make some new positive ones. And the Lakers began doing just that. On Sunday night, they played the Timberwolves, and they won. They won convincingly. Well, I would say convincingly, actually. I say they won fine. 108-103. I had to backpedal from that real quick. The key to me was the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, the Lakers really put the clamps on. They played some of the best defense I've seen them play. Everyone was engaged. Everyone was rotating. Everyone was closing out on shooters in the corners. Avery Bradley had some key steals. Carmelo had a couple threes that were really big, including a 4-point play that was really nice. He also had a really good three where he was jumping up and down on the weak side, kind of trying to get attention, like, I'm open. I'm on the opposite side of the court. Give me the ball. Finally, the ball slowly swings to him. He gets the ball. He takes a pump fake, shoots the ball, hits it. Crowd goes crazy. He's excited because he knew he was going to hit it. He knew like 8 seconds before he shot it that if he got the ball, he'd hit it. He did, and it was a good win. Wasn't a great win because I feel like the Timberwolves are also going through their issues, right? Cat didn't play because he's in COVID protocols. D'Angelo didn't play. D'Lo didn't play because he's in COVID protocols. So with the people they have missing, you would think the Lakers they're the healthier team and they could win more convincingly. And having to, bring kind of close to your best in the fourth quarter against a team like that, that's a bit disappointing. But hey, like I've said before, especially in the regular season, a win's a win. Let's take the win, figure out the rest later. And that's what the Lakers did. They showed that in the fourth quarter they have a gear the Timberwolves don't have quite yet, and they were able to overwhelm them and do enough to get the victory. And that's all that matters. You get the victory today, and you clean it up tomorrow so you can start to really take a positive step forward and really start to extend and get above this kind of one game above 500, one game below, one game above, add 500. They've been in that kind of place for quite some time now, so hopefully this can take them to that next level. I have my skepticisms. I didn't like a lot of the lineup decisions Vogel made. I'm still wondering why Dwight Howard didn't play at all. That doesn't make any sense to me. He's a really, really good big, and even if you want to go small, you can use him in certain lineups. That doesn't make sense to me. But again, the lineups still aren't quite where I want them to be, but I think we are heading in the right direction. So it's just a matter of everyone being patient, myself included, and letting things breathe, letting things play out, and seeing how Vogel reacts to things now that he's fully back and now that he's had a couple games. Let's see what the other lineups look like this week and how the team's kind of developing as the roster's starting to actually have some changes here, because one thing I haven't mentioned just yet, and we're going to get into it now that we're done recapping all the games, is they have some roster decisions to make here, the Lakers do, now that they are able to trade some players and deal some players, and they have to start making some decisions on guaranteed contracts coming up. One decision they made is they traded Rajon Rondo to the Cavs for Denzel Valentine, who they will be waiving, so they will have an open roster spot due to that. The reason they made this trade is obviously Rajon Rondo isn't really playing right now. He's a veteran that just doesn't have enough quite anymore to really make a significant impact on the team, so they're going to trade him away for that reason, try to get someone who can give them a little bit more consistently. And the Cavs really need a point guard because they lost Ricky Rubio for the whole year. So if Rajon Rondo can play a little, they need him a lot. So that's why they agreed to the trade, and that's why it works good for both teams. Rajon's going to get a bigger role on a good Cleveland Cavaliers team that's right now right in the middle of contending for a good playoff spot right now. So if they can keep things up, obviously they do want to do that. And without Rubio, they need to replace him. And if Rondo can help with that, that would be very, very good, especially at his price point. It's a good price. And the Lakers, are not using Rajon, and maybe it's time to start looking for more productive players who you can add to the team. And they can certainly add someone who plays more than Rajon, given how little he's played. The question is, who will that be? Well, the Lakers have a few options here. Obviously, they can try to pick up some undrafted or restricted or unrestricted free agent that's just out there, that doesn't have a team. They can pick up a player like that without having to talk to anyone except that player and agreeing to terms. Or they can take one of these 10-day players they have and give them an opportunity. And I think right now the clear-cut favorite from everyone in Lakers Nation and myself included is I think they should give Stanley Johnson that opportunity. Prior to this Timberwolves game, I felt like it was pretty strong that he was going to get it. He's kind of a shoo-in for it. But he kind of had a poor game as well here, 21 minutes, 1 point. He's known more for his defense and just being active. That's what Lakers Nation and myself have really liked about him. He's been aggressively, working his craft and he's giving that effort you want, and he's a dynamic player who's got some versatility to him. So I like those things about him. But it's only been a 10-day, talk about extremely small sample size. And he's had some good games and some kind of where you're like, it didn't really do much here. So, it'll be interesting to see what the Lakers think of him, and if the Lakers feel comfortable giving him that spot that they opened up for Rajon, or maybe they have a different player in mind. But from the players on 10-day contracts with the Lakers, I think it should be Stanley Johnson. I don't think it should be anyone else. Really, the only other option they really have is, if they would somehow bring back, Collison or something like that. His 10 days up as well. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's probably Johnson that they'll side with here. Other things they have to consider is later on this week, Avery Bradley's contract becomes permanent and guaranteed. Right now, he was picked up right around preseason time, and his contract was now guaranteed, but it becomes guaranteed later this week. So they'll have to decide, do they want to guarantee him that money and keep him for the rest of the season and have to, be on the books for him if, he stays on, or do they want to let him go and say, you know what, it's not worth it. Let's find somebody else, give someone else a chance. I think if I had to guess and if I had to bet, I would assume that Avery Bradley is going to stay on the Lakers, but I'm still not sure because he is very wishy-washy. He has some games where he's very good, like today, where 28 minutes, 14 points, 4 steals. That's really good defense from Avery Bradley, especially in that fourth quarter. That helped seal the game. That defensive effort he gave tonight 100% helped seal the game, especially in that fourth quarter with a couple key steals. So that's a great game. But there's been other games where he plays a lot and it's just not very good. He's not giving you any offense. He's getting cooked on defense because he's a bit older now and not as good as he was during his last stint with the Lakers during the 2020 season. And it feels like, maybe he's getting too much of a role. So I'll be curious to see what the Lakers do. I think they will keep him. But I would honestly wouldn't be shocked because I've seen enough good and bad Avery Bradley to kind of be swung either way. And if the Lakers are 50-50 on him, maybe that's not enough to guarantee his contract. But maybe it is. I'm going to guess that it is. But again, nothing would surprise me because only a few players have been truly great for the Lakers on a consistent basis where they can feel 100% safe. A lot of players have been disappointing or at worst mixed. All right, so it'll be interesting to see how that develops. I'm going to be very curious. But we'll just have to wait as the week progresses and see what the Lakers are doing with those kinds of decisions. It'll let us know a lot about what they thought about this team just generally. So I'm really excited about that, but we'll see how that goes. For this week, let's talk about the games that are happening this week. This week we have Lakers versus Kings on Tuesday at 7:30. So that's going to be Lakers versus Kings, the first game of the week. Second game of the week is Lakers versus Hawks on Friday 7 p.m. Should be another good game at the Crypt here in Los Angeles. Final game of the week is going to be Lakers versus Grizzlies at 6:30 p.m. Same start time as it was this past Sunday against the Timberwolves. So really excited about these games. These are all winnable games. Obviously, we've seen the Lakers lose winnable games. So just because it's a winnable game doesn't mean they'll actually win it. So we'll have to, be patient with that and understand that, hey, that might still be like a 2-1 week or a 1-2 week even. But on paper, they should win these games. The Kings are an inferior team. The Hawks, unfortunately, have so many players missing with COVID protocol that it's going to take a while for them to kind of even have a chance of playing well and really showing what they can do. For most of the season, they've been disappointing. And then once those protocols kind of hit them really hard, of course, they've been losing games. They don't have anything close to what their team actually is. And the Grizzlies game, I think the Lakers can win. They've gotten into games with the Grizzlies. I think they can win it. We saw them lose to the Grizzlies this past week, so it would be nice to get a revenge game kind of, and be able to beat the Grizz because they weren't able to do that the previous week that just happened. So it'll be interesting to see. I totally think they can go 3 games straight here and get a 5-game winning streak, which would be crazy if they got a 5-game losing streak and then a 5-game winning streak to counteract that. That would be really nice. But, the ball's in their court. They're going to have to step up here, and they're going to have to, get some good wins, get some consistency going. And they have a little bit. They've won 3 of their last 4, which is positive. Let's see if they can do a little bit more this week and show us that they're really more than a 500 team. Because so far, for every good game, it's usually combated with the bad game immediately after. So it'll be up to them if they want to kind of break that cycle and really, really start this year off right, get some good wins. And we'll see when we start hearing about AD. We should be hearing about him probably next week. It's unlikely this week, but we'll keep our eyes open on AD, and we'll keep our ears open as well for any news on these roster decisions. Will they keep Stanley Johnson? Will they waive Avery Bradley? These are the kind of things that have to be decided this week now that the team's getting fully healthy. And of course, Avery Bradley, we mentioned his contract is guaranteed, so they'll have to make a choice. So we'll see how those things go this week. So thank you again for joining the Lakers Takes podcast. This one was nice, short, and sweet. I'm really excited about this year. I don't want to talk too much about it, but I'm really excited. The content's only going to get better. This podcast is only going to get better. It's only going to get bigger. I'm even going to make it a little bit longer. I'm planning some guests to come along, and that's going to be really entertaining. So I'm really looking forward to it. And if you like the podcast in 2021, you're going to love it in 2022. So thank you so much for being here. Hopefully next week when we talk, we're talking about 3 Lakers victories and a 5-game winning streak. Let's see if that happens. Hopefully it does, Lakers Nation. My name is Edwin Garcia. This is a Lakers Takes podcast, and we are out of here.